What's up, guys? Luke from Fisherman's Warehouse here, and I'm just coming off a fresh win here at the California Delta for the BAM Pro Tour Championship, first year. So, pretty unreal feeling to be the inaugural champion on that tour. Phenomenal tour. I know they just announced the Super 60. A bunch of guys are getting excited for that. So, if you're one of those guys that's on the fence or has a way to get into that thing still, take a look at it. And if you're wanting to get into the Super 60 for the next season, make sure you fish their pro-ams because I know it's going to be a big deal. It's a lot of big names, and there's some big money in it next year. So, but anyways, back to this event. This is the first time I've actually won on the Delta on a bigger level tournament. So this really meant a lot to me. I've never considered myself a true Delta rat. So it's always been a little bit intimidating, and just one of those ones that I've really wanted to knock off the bucket list, and finally did it. And of course, kind of a rite of passage as a pro, it seems like, is to win a boat. And I finally got to check that one off the bucket list too. So that was pretty awesome. But anyways, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what setups I was throwing, how I was able to pull off this win, locations, all that kind of stuff, and a little bit of just tips on how to fish the Delta and how to become just kind of a more well-rounded tournament angler in general. So hopefully you guys stick around, you learn something, and we'll dive into everything, the nitty-gritty, and if I leave anything out, drop it down in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer you guys. So anyways, let's jump straight into it. All right, guys. So I'm just going to kind of jump straight into how I broke down the weekend. So you guys are watching this a little bit later on. This was a tournament in fall. So this is fall Delta fishing, basically end of October going into November. And we really kind of started to have that cooling trend leading up to this. So I knew it was kind of one of those times of the year where the fish should be a little bit more active. They're getting fat and happy for winter when they get really lethargic. So I had my baits picked out basically before we even, left for this tournament. One of the cool things about the BAM Trail, too, on the Pro Tour is they don't allow any practice. So, I'm just showing up first day on Friday, and I got to go out and start catching fish quick because otherwise one of the other 23 guys is going to smoke me. And, if you don't get on them early, it's hard to make a comeback in these things. But anyways, I had a couple different setups tied up, ready to go on the boat. The first one being a Picasso shock blade with a Yamamoto Zacho on the back. Another one, old faithful, always in my boat, a Yamamoto Senko, just a quick wacky rig, no weight in it or anything like that. And then I had a handful of other rods, everything from a flipping stick, I had a whopper plopper, I had a frog, I had a spinnerbait, I had a drop shot. We had basically the whole kitchen sink thrown in the boat just in case any of those different baits played. But it really seemed like as the week went on, I kind of narrowed it down to these two. It was that wacky Senko and then, of course, that Picasso shock blade. So one of the things I did before this tournament and that I do before every tournament to really kind of help me prepare myself is I do a lot of homework, as I call it. So I spent a lot of time on, the Google Earth, looking at my maps and trying to research as much as I can about, just how different areas in the Delta set up, especially for this time of year, and, kind of recalling my previous experiences and all that stuff. And I do this for basically every fishery I go to for every single tournament. But it kind of narrowed me down and pointed me in the right direction. I decided I wanted to go down south. So I was making quite a bit of a run. We launched out a big break, but I made the 30 to 40 minute run, just hauling that skeeter down there at 70 miles an hour the whole way. And kind of found this one section of the river that was about, I'd say, 2 to 3 miles long. And I just had a couple pinpoint areas in there that I found throughout the week. It seemed like each day I would kind of add on to what I was catching my fish on. And then I would break them down with the baits that I've been talking about. So we had a really low tide this week. So what that did was it pulled a lot of those fish out off the bank. And then I was using basically either just my eyeballs or I was actually using the Garmin Live Scope to help kind of find the edge of the grass. I wasn't using it to catch fish, but you could find the edge of the grass, and that would help me make a lot more accurate casts. And then depending on what the tide was doing and what the wind was doing, I pretty much picked up one of these two guys. So if we had a little bit more wind blowing and a stronger tide movement when those fish were a little bit more active, right after the switch, that kind of timing, I would pick up a Yamamoto Zacho on the back of a Picasso shock blade. And I was just throwing straight green pumpkin. You can't ever go wrong with green pumpkin. And I paired that up with either 14 or 16 pound Sunline Crank FC. I really like this line because it's super abrasion resistant. Of course, the Delta, you're not getting around a lot of rock or brush or anything like that, but when it does happen, it is nice. And I have a lot of confidence in this line. It's got quite a bit of stretch, and that's one of those key things when you're throwing that chatterbait is a lot of the times those fish will come up behind that thing and they'll just kind of suck it in. And if you have too stout of a rod, or if you don't have enough stretch in your setup, then a lot of the times those fish are going to short strike it because you're going to feel that bite and you're going to get probably a little bit excited and you're going to pull the thing right out of their mouth. So having that really helped. And anyways, so that was that first one. And the great thing too about the Zacho is it just pairs up so perfectly sized with any chatterbait bladed jig, whether it's a Picasso shock blade or anything else. And you don't even have to trim it or anything. You just pull them straight out of the package, throw them on, tried and true, and it's gonna catch fish on the back of your chatterbait. And the next one, obviously, it's the Wacky Senko. So this is when I pulled out a little bit more of an area where I kind of broke down and knew there were fish sitting. I didn't cover much water with this. Obviously, it's a more finesse style bait, so I'm not burning down the bank. But once I locked into an area and I knew there were some quality fish in there, I would pick up the Senko and just kind of pick it apart. One of the really nice things about the Senko is, although it is very finesse, you can actually, kind of cover quite a bit of water pretty quickly if you're kind of target fishing, as I call it. So obviously at this low tide, those fish were pulled out right on the edge of the grass. So I was able to just cast the Senko right up to the edge and pretty much just let it fall along the side, and those fish are just sitting right in the edge of the grass waiting for something to come by. And they'd see this Senko falling down, and it's too easy for them to eat. So they'd just come out, snatch the thing, and it was pretty much either they ate it on the fall or within like 1 or 2 twitches after that, or they weren't going to eat it. So I was able to be really efficient, go down these grass lines, make a ton of casts, and I caught probably 30 to 40 fish on it the last day. Now, given a lot of those were small, but if you're just looking to go out and catch a lot of fish right now on the river, get a Wacky Rig Senko. So I paired that thing up with the Owner Sniper Finesse Weedless. That's a wacky hook right there, and it's got a little bit of a tiny little weed guard on the tip of there. Helps you be just a little bit easier fishing around as much grass as I was. Paired that up. I had 10-pound shooter. That's also made by Sunline, going to I think it was a 12-pound AMZ braided line by Sunline for the main line. Paired that all up on a Daiwa combo with the Tatula Elite rod and reel, and that was just money right there. I actually caught my big fish of the event on this. I caught my big fish on the last day on this, and I just caught a ton of just solid limit fish that really helped kind of push me over the edge. But one of the key things with the Delta, especially just this time of year, is really to find healthy grass and to find good water movement. So during this fall time, a lot of these fish are actively feeding up for the winter. Of course, these these Florida largemouth, they really get pretty lethargic in winter time, so they like to kind of fatten up before we get into that time of year. So finding the areas where there's an abundance of food and there's a really easy opportunity for them to eat it makes a big difference in how many fish you're going to catch and the quality of fish you're going to catch. So I was really keen in on places that had a lot of water movement, that were bringing in basically fresh food for these fish, or fresh, healthy looking grass, because that's what the crawdads and the bluegills and a lot of other bait fish like that get attracted to. So those are 2 key things. Make sure you keep those in mind anytime you're going out on the Delta. And that goes past fall. That's pretty much all times of the year to look for good grass. But anyways, those are kind of my setups. That's how I got it done down there on the Delta. And of course, we've got all of this in stock here at Fisherman's Warehouse, online or in any one of our 4 retail stores. So make sure you come in, give us a holler. We've got this and so much more. And everybody in the store, they all know a lot about fishing. So I can guarantee if you got any more questions too, they'll be able to help you out. So anyways, drop some comments down below if you guys got any questions on anything else I used, and I'll be sure to get back to you. But in the meantime, good luck, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.